Hello everyone. I wanted to bring you an update. Yesterday I was on an 8-hour telephone call with the city of Calgary as part of the conversion therapy ban bylaw. And of course the first little while of that was on the council explaining the bylaw and then opening it up to those who had registered to phone in to speak on this issue. So I think I was about number 24 on a list of 100 to speak, and it will be continuing today and even possibly tomorrow. This is a huge issue. So what is this? Well, I think I've read conversion therapy as it's been outlined before, but I just wanted to bring it to the short piece. It is a bylaw to ban individuals like myself, therapists like myself, and pastors, church members, anyone from helping someone that comes to talk to them about unwanted same-sex attraction. And they are going to be fined and possibly experience jail. So the fine is $10,000 and jail time is 2 to 5 years. So let me read the rest of this prohibited business activity bylaw. It includes any commercial, merchandising, or industrial activity or undertaking, as well as profession, trade, occupation, or calling, or employment, or an activity providing goods and services, whether or not for profit, and however organized or formed, including cooperatives or an association of persons. So this means for the church denominations and affiliations. A person must not engage or operate a business. Proof of one transaction in a business that has been advertised is sufficient to establish that person is engaged in or operates a business of conversion therapy. The owner of the property is also responsible for any act that the person carrying on the business on the premises does, and it constitutes an offense under this bylaw. I'm just reading here. In the same manner and to the same extent as though the act were done by the owner. So let me just kind of bring this into perspective. If someone in your church talks to someone who comes to them and is talking about, I'm having these sexual attractions, or I'm involved in pornography, homosexual pornography, and I don't want to go down that route. If someone in your church talks to this person and suggests that maybe they don't have to go down that route, your whole church will be liable, as well as that person. If someone came to you into your church and murdered someone in your church, the owner of the church would not be liable. The denomination, the affiliations would not be charged. So this bylaw is incredibly broad. So I'm going to read to you, though, what I presented to council yesterday, and I had added a couple things to my presentation as I was listening, because the council kept going back to Dr. Christopher Wells and calling him in. He is their resident expert on all things gender-based. And I won't go into his qualification. He has a doctorate in education, not a therapist for sure. But anyways, he has become the professional. So let me read what I have, what I presented to council. Honorable Council and Committee, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm Dr. Ann Gillies. I've sent in 4 documents with pages of references that actually refute Dr. Wells' research. I've also written an unpublished review of research with 20 pages of references, as well as other kind of appendices. The privilege that the council was giving to Dr. Wells to support his belief and unsubstantiated research is totally unacceptable. I have a Master of Arts and a Ph.D. that are specifically focused on integrating psychological and spiritual principles in sound therapeutic practice. But my most important title is Mom. My eldest son's story is one of heartache and success. At 27, he decided he was dissatisfied with his life within the LGBTQ community. So he invested in 3 years of counseling. And in his own words, it was only at the end of counseling when he realized that his identity was so much more than his sexuality. He found freedom from his deep anger due to trauma from horrific sexual and physical abuse, and he began to pursue a spiritual identity. In the midst of this pursuit, he found himself leaving his gay identity. He left it behind for heterosexual attraction. Several years later, he married a woman and now has 4 lovely children. In his own words, he says he could never have imagined what it was like to be truly loved and to truly love in return. In 2013, a group of highly qualified professionals and academics came together from opposing sides of this conversion therapy debate to produce the Reconciliation and Growth Project. This is a living project. That means it gets altered, it gets adjusted, it gets added to as new research becomes available. So the following remarks are based on this report. The continued use of terms such as torture, abuse, hate, reparative, conversion, sexual orientation, change efforts, and affirmative therapies fuel adversarial tensions. Such terms obscure the common ground between diverse perspectives. The desire is to move beyond adversarial strategies and focus in on collaborative efforts that will foster a respectful dialogue to facilitate individual self-determination and do no harm. And we can do that. We actually can do that. The ethical principle of self-determination requires that each individual is seen as a whole person and that they are supported in their right to explore, define, articulate, and live out their own identity. Now we're talking adults here. Ethical care involves working within a client's value system to enhance the client's well-being. So the basic principles of reconciliation and growth are these. First, and most importantly, the person is not mentally ill. And we acknowledge that shifts in sexuality and gender identity can and do occur for some people. Secondly, it's important to accept that a person's desire to bring their life into harmony with closely held religious beliefs may very well be their possible and desired outcome. Harm has been reported when highly religious or sexual and gender minority individuals are pressured to identify one way or another. It's in the pressure. Clients should feel safe to explore the many relationship options available to them, including heterosexual relationships and marriage and celibacy. Faith identity and development is unique to each person. Assuming that all should believe a certain way may damage the capacity for authentic faith expression in a person. Clients must not be restricted from pursuing their healthy identity development. An integrated process will increase overall mental health and functioning. It will decrease client distress. It will invite the client to examine and modify unhealthy expressions of sexuality, gender, and even toxic faith. A good therapist will listen well as a client shares their history, their stories, and then help those individuals make sense of their lives. We must not be banned from providing holistically for each individual that comes through our doors. Now, because there was so much conversation back and forth with Christopher Wells throughout everyone else's, or at the end of other people's presentations as well, I wanted to add a few things, but I was not able to until one of the counselors actually apologized. she felt that council members were being disrespectful regarding my degree and my expertise. And then she invited me. She asked me if there was anything I'd like to add. And I was so thankful for that opportunity. So this is what I said. Mental health professionals have been intimidated into silence. We've seen this continually today by members of the council who refuse to allow quotes from peer-reviewed research that indicates statistically significant improvements of psychological and personal well-being. The same professional organizations that have promoted the now invalidated born that way theory, and it has been disproven, those organizations are the very same ones that are promoting the conversion therapy bans. So I want to say, if they have been wrong for 40 years on something so important as immutability, unchangeableness, born that way, then we must question their promotion of conversion therapy bans. So what I didn't get to add were a couple other things, and due to time, I just felt that wasn't on the top priority. But I wanted to say this: conversion therapy bans refuse to take into consideration that any type of psychological treatment can result in unwanted outcomes. So that includes the potential for perceived harm, complete failure, or even relapse, possible relapse. And those things are ignored by this bylaw. Also, Dr. Wells refuted some things, and I just wanted to actually challenge his talk there. Dr. Wells talked about Dr. Lisa Diamond not supporting conversion therapy or same-sex orientation change efforts. Well, the problem with that is that isn't her area of research and expertise. Sexual fluidity is. So when she talks about conversion therapy, that is only her opinion. It's not based on her research. Dr. Wells also misquoted a Jones and Yarhouse study, saying that their research didn't relate. Their research results didn't relate to the effectiveness of sexual orientation change efforts. But I'm going to read what it actually said. In their peer-reviewed paper in the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy in 2011, they say, in conclusion, the findings of this paper appear to contradict the commonly expressed view that sexual orientation is not changeable, and that the attempt to change is highly likely to result in harm. So their research found little harm, if any, and that they found that sexual orientation is changeable, which of course is also what Lisa Diamond expresses in her fluidity studies. So there you go. I know this has been a bit longer and maybe a little technical, but you need to be aware and apprised of the battle that we're in for truth in the scientific realm, and with academics particularly, and how mental health and the medical profession has been intimidated into silence. Thanks for listening today.